Well, good morning, everybody. Thought I'd play breaking news because this one's very interesting. I've been talking a lot about USA, Russia, China, over Taiwan, and of course Ukraine. The legalities of it. Late yesterday, we got Lyle Goldstein chiming in through Newsweek. For those of you who don't know who Lyle Goldstein is, he is top war planner in the United States of America, expert on Russia and China. When it comes to war strategy, that is the man in the United States of America. He writes a detailed article in Newsweek. So I've been talking about Taiwan and Ukraine on the legal side of it. Where do Russia and China sit? Where does USA sit? Well, Lyle Goldstein goes on through the analysis and he realizes it's USA on their own in this world. USA versus China and Russia over either Taiwan or Ukraine. So if Russia went for Ukraine and took it, and China turned around and goes for Taiwan and takes it, what can USA do militarily? The answer is nothing. Nothing. Not legally and not militarily. Not without escalating to a World War III situation. If you haven't read the article, you should read it. It touches on a lot of what I talk about, but on the military side of it, just a military analysis. What Lyle doesn't go into is the legal side and the whole idea that why would USA be fighting that war alone? That's very simple. Over 85% of the countries in the world would not support USA in that action. That's reality. You see, everybody, in 1971, President Richard Nixon, with a majority House and a majority Senate, struck Taiwan from the UNSC and absolutely cemented Beijing. This was a majority of the American people in both House and Senate. Not a small feat. Richard Nixon won a massive majority, a sweeping massive majority, not seen until Reagan. Both Reagan and Richard Nixon were extremely smart, well internationally understood presidents of the United States. For that trade-off, Richard Nixon had China bind the Declaration of Human Rights 1948. Not a small feat. Beijing agreed. And that keeps China in line in the world. That's why they don't go across borders. They don't go around throwing their weight around militarily on other countries. They've never done that. That's Richard Nixon. It also brought forward the Declaration of Human Rights. If you've never read that, you should. It's international binding law. While Russia didn't sign it then, they did agree. As the Russian Federation, they brought forward another binding world law which recognizes and absolutely cements the Declaration of Human Rights 1948. It's binding international law. I went through this in several presentations. Now that's Taiwan. I am sorry for all those Americans and politicians who continually talk about Taiwanese independence against China. It's wrong. It's wrong against the American people. It's wrong against the Constitution of the United States of America. It breaches both House and Senate. And as divided as the American government is today, you will never get both House and Senate and the presidential executive ever, all three in a majority, agreeing to anything. Richard Nixon did it. But you'll never be able to unbind that. Never. Because losing the Declaration of Human Rights has serious, serious complications worldwide. You think the world's a bad place now? It becomes much, much worse. Worse than that, the autocracies around the world. You think genocides we see today are bad? They'll be 10 times worse losing the Declaration of Human Rights 1948 or entering a World War III. Now that's just Taiwan. Now we can go on to the Russian Federation, who is absolutely granted unanimously by the P4 remaining, given Soviet Union's UNSC power. There's the Minsk agreements. And everybody pay attention to this. Ukraine has not bound the Declaration of Human Rights 1948. They refuse to sign it. They are the most corrupt nation within a 5,000-mile radius, meaning a 10,000-mile total across. And then you go around in a circle, a circumference, the full diameter of 10,000 miles, and then you do the circumference around that. You will not find a more corrupted nation. That's the European Union, Russia, Canada, USA, and so many other nations in this world. Never mind that northern half of the world. They are absolutely the most corrupt. You cannot find any world-leading economist to disagree with that statement. It's been that way since absolutely their Declaration of Independence, sponsored by then President George H. Bush. And of course, all Democrats flock to it. And many politicians got their greasy hands, and there's even accusations on Hunter Biden himself. It's a massive amount of corruption, a massive rape of all those people of the Ukraine, the likes of which isn't seen in the Northern Hemisphere anywhere. It's the worst one. Worst by a large margin. All you have to do is analyze the gross domestic product and how much is bled from that. It's pathetic. It's never gotten any better in all of these decades. The reality is the Russian Federation holds the UNSCP 5 power. They all ratified and cemented that in 1993. We, the rest of the world, have no say. USA, again, in massive majority, accepted that in both House and Senate, and by the executive power of the president. Again, good luck ever getting the House, Senate, and President of the United States in all three majorities to agree on dissolving Russia's power. Not going to happen. And worse than that for both, for reality checks to the entire world, but for Canadians who absolutely have zero UNSC power and are never going to ever even enter the United Nations Security Council, the most powerful institution in the world. Canada will never see that. Never. Until they complete some pretty monumental tasks that the Crown empowered politicians are not willing to do. They're not willing to bind international law. As they have walked away from it, they hide behind the royal family. All of your politicians want their crown. To keep that crown, they must give international powers of Canada to the United Kingdom's royal family. This is the Atlantic Charter 2012. It's what it costs to be in the Commonwealth of 54 nations. That's what it cost Canada. You stole the crown in 1952. You did not empower the people. He got away with it for many decades, almost 5 decades. And then when you hit the 80s, it got sniffed out. He ran into trouble with South Africa. He ran back to the royal family, and they worked diligently until the creation of the UN Charter of the Commonwealth Charter of 2012. But there was 85, and the absolute abolishment of the ICJ following that. Letters of removal. That's Canada. Canada does not believe in human rights. They believe in first-class rights over all Canadian second and third class and First Peoples rights. That the first class is superior to you, they are godlike, and that you are all underneath them. You worship them because they are empowered by all of your gods. Your gods, if you worship a god, gives them the power through God to oversee all of you, their slaves, or their Indians. They're savage Indians, in fact. That's how it's written in the first class customary system, historically. No, USA by Lyle Goldstein, #1 military strategist in the United States of America today, world expert on China and Russia for the United States, definitely in the top 10, writes a detailed article in Newsweek. Please all read that. United States cannot take Russia or China. And who's going to be able to enact that? So now Joe Biden releases this period here, late last night as well, a follow-up. He's going to place serious sanctions on Russia. They're going to really hurt them, financial sanctions. How did that work out with Crimea? Didn't do a thing. And in fact, Russia, with the power of OPEC, can turn around and devastate the United States of America and their citizens in energy war without even firing a missile. That's a fact. If you don't believe it, just look at last year. Look at the shale producers. They can ruin the United States primary. Easy. Their primary sector. Easy. It's not a win-win though, however, everybody. This is, I believe, a carefully orchestrated and heavily influenced by the Commonwealth of 54 countries, America's supposed best friend, Canada, the country I live in, under both liberals and conservatives, mostly liberals, in bed with many of the American media companies, create and push a lot of the narratives and stories. They perpetuate a lot of the political corruption that has divided America. It's a $12 trillion fight. They pay the media companies in the US, pay them big dollars to write big stories, to change the mindset of the average American, to convince them to give up their we the people power, to corrupt the people of America, to continually attack the institution of the United States. This is happening in Russia too. It's happening in China as well too. The Commonwealth of 54 nations would love nothing more than China, Russia, and USA to tear each other apart in a World War III. And for those colonial countries to sit back and turn around and once again dominate over Russia, USA, and China. They would love nothing more than that. And they will prey on the American people, the Russian people. I did a poll last year how Russians feel. Real Russians. It was real Russians, real Americans, real Canadians. You could say the poll was only 500. I did not ask the Russian Federation for permission. I never seemed to get any trouble for it. Americans figured I had Russian bots. When I told them, no, those are Russian people, I carefully went through Twitter profiles and I kept asking real Russians until I got 150 of them. I went through the United States of America, random real Americans, check out their history. I got 250 of them, and then I got 100 Canadians. And this was the poll. Who's the most autocratic? And of course, whopping majority of Russians. Americans are the most corrupt, autocratic pieces of shit ever. Do you know what Americans said by whopping majority? Russians are the most corrupt sons of bitches in the world, blah, 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 blah. And do you know what Canadians said? Literally almost 1/3, little tilted towards the USA, believed USA was the most corrupt, most autocratic. Another third believed it was Russia. And another third believed it was Canada. And you know what the answer is? It's Canada by a large margin. The federal power of the Russian Federation is something. It's a unitary party system, and maybe that's a bad thing, maybe not. But the reality is they all have regional constitution and division of powers, and each of them have constitutions of their own, cementing those powers. Nobody ever gets to see or talk about that, but that's the truth. United States, same thing. They have regional state constitutions. That's why we see revolutions and military action by states at periods of history. Same with Russia, and even now today. We see growing concern with Texas. Texas has its own military. Very powerful. Very powerful. They can hold their own against other states or even the United States of America itself. Not a slouch. Now, Canada, it's not the same thing. There are 0 regional constitutions. It's called for. There's never been any. All provinces and territories run 100% fully autocratic, like age of empires. A premier is king. And in fact, it's true because it's cemented through Governor General, Lieutenant Governors of every province. And those Lieutenant Governors can go right back to the Prime Minister, usurp any law, any form of democracy, as you've all seen throughout the pandemic. I don't know what's going to happen. Media presses it, people push it. We have Lyle Goldstein, best military strategist on Russia and China from the USA, chiming in today on much about what I talk about. He goes into the military analysis, saying USA can't fight that war, not without introducing ground-changing, life-altering, world-altering firepower. And you know that would be responded by Russia and China. Russia for sure. I don't think it'll happen. I think if Russia decided to take Ukraine, nothing's going to happen from USA. And most of the world will side with Russia. And the same with Taiwan. Most of the world will side with China. And the reality is, America already signed off with the Beijing regime a long time ago. America already signed off with the Russian Federation a long time ago. If Russia, or if USA breaks its word now, they're doomed. They're doomed worldwide. That will be the fall of the power of USA. That's reality. And I know there's a lot of Republicans calling for a military force for Taiwan. I know many Democrats call for a military force for Ukraine, but they're out to lunch. They're outside of reality, and they're in gross violation of the sacred institution of the United States and the people of the United States of America. And if either party pursues those aspirations, it's the beginning of the end of the institution of the United States of America, and it could be the fall of the China and the Russian institutions as well. Always look at things in this world as they are, and it's the yin and the yang. USA could be the yin, Russia, China could be the yang. You have to have those two opposing ideals and forces against each other to keep all the world in check, to keep everything flowing. We can't have any one power dominating the entire world. And I'm telling you all, Canada sits back with those Commonwealth countries, just hoping to spread the crown autocracy back to its full power of a world we never want to go back to, a world of Nazi Germany's, colonial Japan's, and sick atrocities all over the world, likes we never want to bring back. Child, sex, trafficking, abuse, genocide, women and men, it's gross. Racial wars beyond all measure. That's not a world I want to go back to. I don't really feel like ever going back to being an official slave. As many African Americans can tell you, not a great place to be. To fight all of that, colonialism out of the institution, the United States of America, to threaten it all with a war with countries who helped abolish all of that, to make the world a better place, regardless of their differences, some extreme political differences that may be harmful, but maybe not. When you look at checks and balances worldwide, and that's what it's really about. It's a hell of a lot better than a colonial system. And we must fight hard to end that colonial system. Canada is number 3 in that world power, a $12 trillion fight against those 3 nations. They do it sneakily. Thanks, that's my video this morning. Share. Bye now.